said something on ESPN recently, and I agree with you, but I want you to kind of explain it. You said Shedeur Sanders is the most powerful black man in America since Barack Obama. Explain that.
I meant it too, Steve. Stack, I meant that with every bone in my body, because what I started to realize is that when he went, not the second game that he was announced to start, it was the game before that.
The Raider game?
The Raider game. And so what I realized was when Shedeur Sanders, this is the first thing, when Shedeur Sanders is playing, all beef stops at that moment, right? It's the first time that you actually could go on social media, X, Instagram, TikTok.
Threads.
What up, Threads, right? Yeah, absolutely, Threads. I was gonna say it, he beat me to it, you know what I mean? So you go on there, right, and it's nothing but positive vibes.
Let that really sink in for a second. When Kendrick Perkins dropped that line on ESPN, he didn't just start some casual debate. Girl, he hit a nerve that rippled across the entire league. In the NFL, where money, politics, and image control the narrative, Perkins wasn't quoting stats or reciting win-loss records. He was pointing to something deeper: influence, energy, and what unfolds when Shedeur Sanders steps onto the field, and suddenly, just like that, the chatter disappears. No drama, no viral controversies, no Twitter chaos, just fans watching and vibing together. And that's where the story actually kicks off. This week, Perkins sat down on All the Smoke Unplugged with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson and went full throttle. No backpedaling, no careful wording, nothing. He said, "I meant it with every bone in my body." And when you actually tune in to what he's saying, when you link it to what's happening right now with the Cleveland Browns, Shedeur's role, the mixed reactions, and even that gut-wrenching 23-20 loss to the Buffalo Bills, something becomes crystal clear. This is bigger than football. Here's the hard truth nobody's saying out loud. Every time Shedeur hits the field, the entire NFL ecosystem shifts. Ratings spike, jerseys fly off shelves, stadiums fill up. Social media, usually chaotic, suddenly moves in one direction. That level of impact doesn't just happen by accident, and it certainly isn't expected from a fifth-round pick who's supposed to stay low-key. So here's the early question. Why does Shedeur Sanders make so many people uncomfortable just by existing? Perkins lays it out plain and simple. He says the first moment that grabbed him wasn't even the big announcement game. It was that Raiders matchup before it. The second Shedeur was on the field, everything else faded away. Check X and scroll Instagram, TikTok, and even forums. Not hate, not drama, pure, unfiltered, positive energy. Black fans, white fans, young fans, older fans, people are literally saying their 73-year-old grandmother is watching football now because of Deion Sanders. Name another player having this kind of pull right now. Seriously, try naming one.
So it's the first time that I've seen, like, where it's like, man, everybody in the black community is rooting for this guy. And then when I said it, I looked at the comments and it was like, I don't ever go in the comments, because you go in the comments, you might catch yourself arguing all day with certain people, right?
I got time.
I don't mind that sometimes.
And so it's like, you see people that's like all races, and they're saying, I just bought my 73-year-old grandmother watched Shedeur. And it's like, name me a person that didn't have that type of effect on anybody. And so people don't understand. It's like people are rooting for a guy that was a fifth-round pick. It's only one guy that has, on that team that's top 50 in jersey sales, that's Shedeur, right? And he kills you in his interviews because he has that balance of being arrogant, flashy, which I'm cool with because he put the work in. You know what I mean? If you shine, put it in their face. But then he also killed them with I want to give all praise to God. Yeah. And it hurt their soul because they want him to take the bait. They throw the rod out there, he never do. He never throw his coach under the bus. So when I think about...
I think their coach needs to be thrown off the bus, but go ahead.
I think
under the bus.
His ass should have been fired.
Yeah.
This is where Perkins' statement really lands. When he calls Shedeur Sanders the most powerful black man since Barack Obama, he's not talking politics or holding office. He's talking about influence, reach, and how Shedeur can step into a struggling Browns season, absorb a brutal 23-20 loss to Buffalo, and still dominate Monday morning conversations. And here's where it stings for the critics. People aren't cheering for Shedeur just because he's thrilling on the field. They're rooting for him because they feel he's never been given a fair shot. A fifth-round pick with top 50 jersey sales on his own team. Let that sink in. In a league that's supposed to reward performance with opportunity, Shedeur keeps smashing expectations while still fighting for basic respect. Now, think about what just went down in Cleveland. The Browns lose a nail-biter to the Buffalo Bills 23-20, a game full of crucial moments, key calls, and sharp execution. Yet, despite the loss, despite the record, despite all odds, people were watching. Packed stadium, nationwide attention. If Shedeur doesn't play, nobody circles that game. That's not shade on anyone, it's reality. Perkins said it straight. A 3-8 Browns team versus a struggling opponent doesn't pull eyeballs like that unless Deion Sanders is under center. That's why this conversation blew up. Shedeur doesn't just play football, he owns the moment. In interviews, he's calm and confident, but never cocky. Flashy, yet grounded. He'll celebrate a big play, then immediately give God the credit. That combo drives people insane because they're hunting for a slip-up. They want a viral meltdown, a coach throwing shade, a heated quote, and he never gives it. Ask yourself, when's the last time a young QB handled this much pressure with this much poise? Shedeur Sanders is bigger than stats. He represents unity in an era where sports rarely unite anyone. As one voice on the podcast said, he's doing what we wish our president would, bringing people together. That's not casual commentary, that's heavy. So here's the question. Think carefully before answering. Is the backlash really about football, or is it about control? Because when someone this young, this bold, this visible refuses to be boxed in, systems get rattled, media narratives crack, old rules break, and suddenly a fifth-round pick becomes the NFL's center of gravity without asking permission. Think about that. Remember the Buffalo game. The Browns battle hard, come up short, yet nobody blames Shedeur. Nobody doubts his effort or heart. Instead, the chatter shifts to coaching choices, roster support, and whether the team is even setting him up to win. That alone tells you everything. Fans see it. They're not blind. When supporters defend a quarterback more passionately than the franchise itself, something's seriously off, and Shedeur knows it. That's the scary part. He never throws anyone under the bus, even when the people around him probably deserve it. Perkins even joked a coach should have been thrown under the bus at least 5 times by now. Gone, fired. But Shedeur stays calm. That composure builds trust with fans, teammates, and even people who don't care about the Browns. Now here's a question that really matters. If Shedeur Sanders had a different last name, would this conversation even exist? Are we watching football, or are we witnessing a cultural moment unfold live? Perkins isn't the only one noticing anymore. More voices are echoing it, some quietly, some loudly. Shedeur Sanders brings people together in ways the league never planned, scripted, or controlled. That's why the criticism sounds so loud. That's why every slip-up gets amplified. That's why losses, like the one to Buffalo, are picked apart like a playoff meltdown. But influence doesn't vanish with defeat. Sometimes it becomes even more visible. If the Browns were winning without Shedeur, would anyone care this much? Exactly. This isn't about perfection, it's about presence, about what happens when Shedeur Sanders walks onto the field and suddenly the entire energy shifts. Sold-out arenas, national conversations, unity across social platforms usually torn apart by everything else. As this season pushes forward, the pressure will only rise. More eyes, more critics, more tests. Tough losses, tight games, harsh lessons. But if Perkins is right, and there's plenty of evidence he is, Shedeur Sanders isn't just surviving these moments, he's shaping them. Let's keep going, because this story doesn't stop at a podcast quote or a tough Buffalo loss. It goes much deeper. One thing people rarely talk about: why Deion Sanders commands attention even during losing seasons. Cleveland didn't beat Buffalo. They didn't dominate the standings, but culturally, they made a statement, and that's rare in the NFL. Losing teams usually fade, cameras move on, talking heads chase the next story, but with Shedeur, the spotlight stays locked. And that's exactly what Kendrick Perkins was trying to convey in a way that shocked people. Shedeur grabs attention without demanding it. He doesn't melt down online. He doesn't argue with analysts. He doesn't subtweet former players. He doesn't play victim. He lets the moment breathe. And that calm, that silence, is what drives critics nuts. They can't figure out where to place him. He's confident but careful, flashy but disciplined, outspoken but respectful. That balance is rare, especially for a young quarterback doubted from day one. Let's be real, the fifth-round pick label is constantly weaponized. It's thrown in his face whenever he succeeds, almost like saying, "Remember your place." But fans aren't buying it anymore. They see the jersey sales, the packed stadiums, the TV ratings, and they're asking the same question Perkins is asking. How does someone with this much influence still get treated like an afterthought? Now pause and think with me. Does the NFL even understand what it has in Shedeur Sanders, or are they still trying to figure out how to control it? Because look at the pattern. Every time Shedeur struggles, it's overanalyzed. When he shines, it gets downplayed. When the Browns lose by 3 points to Buffalo, the focus should be on execution and support. Instead, the discussion quietly circles back to whether he's really the guy. Even though the proof is right there, people are tuning in because he is the guy. That Bills game perfectly illustrates it. Cleveland fought tooth and nail. They stayed competitive. And when it ended 23-20, nobody turned off the TV thinking Shedeur failed. If anything, it felt like he's being asked to carry more than any QB should at this point. That's not excuses, it's perspective. And perspective is exactly what fans are finally bringing, instead of just echoing old talking points. Perkins also highlighted something crucial that needs more attention: unity. When Shedeur plays, the black community rallies behind him in ways Perkins hasn't seen in years. That's raw power, not manufactured, not forced, pure. And it doesn't leave anyone out. Fans from all walks are watching, cheering, buying jerseys, and bringing family to the game. Here's another question for you. When was the last time a quarterback created new football fans instead of just entertaining the ones already watching? That's influence, that's a reach, and that's why the comparison, wild as it sounded to some, clicked for others. Perkins wasn't saying Shedeur is a politician. He was saying Shedeur creates moments where division pauses, even if just for 3 hours on a Sunday. And that's why the pushback hit immediately, because once you call someone powerful, uncomfortable questions pop up. Who gave him that power? Who profits from it? Who loses control? In sports media, those questions make people sweat. Ask yourself, if Shedeur Sanders stayed quiet, humble, and invisible, would the criticism be this loud? Probably not. As the season rolls on, the Browns will face more losses, more scrutiny, and more pressure. That's NFL reality. But every game Shedeur plays adds another layer, another data point, another reason fans keep watching even when the record says they shouldn't care. And that's undeniable. So, moving forward, don't just watch the scoreboard, watch the crowd, watch social media, and watch post-game conversations. That's where Shedeur Sanders' real impact lives, not just in touchdowns, but in attention, not just in wins, but in unity. I'll leave you with this final thought. Are we watching the rise of a quarterback or the rise of a new kind of power in the NFL? History doesn't usually announce itself quietly. It shows up in moments like this, in comments that sound crazy at first, and in fifth-round picks who refuse to play small, in Rosses that somehow make the story bigger, not smaller. Shedeur Sanders is here. The influence is undeniable, and whether the league is ready or not, this conversation isn't going anywhere.